Hello, and welcome back to How to Start Your Game Company. I am Przybylski, the founder of D20 Studios. This week, we received a question from a subscriber asking about how to do a game pitch. This would be if you're taking your game concept to a team of investors looking to help fund your project. So we're going to cover the basics today of the core elements that you want to answer for any kind of investment group. So the way I'd like to frame this is, think about it from the perspective as if you were going to be the investor. And let's say I am the game creator and I'm coming to you with a proposal and I'm going to be asking for a large sum of your money. What are the top things that come to your mind as questions you'd want answered as I both show you the game pitch and talk about how I'm going to execute and deliver within the time frame that I promise? So we're going to start really quick with the basic. This is the question that everybody almost certainly focuses on when they're getting started with a game project, and that is the what. The what is the type of game I'm building. This is the thing that gets everybody keyed up and excited about your project and why you're doing this, right? The what consists of your creative pitch, the story, the fantasy that you're trying to sell, and why it's compelling. The what also speaks to things like your core engagement loop. So when you take a customer or a player through your product, you're going to be speaking to the various aspects of what that player journey looks like. And this can include things like the core battle screen. If it's a puzzle game, it's your main puzzle screen. Following into the reward section where the player is given some kind of reward or currency. A store screen where they can spend their currency and gain new power-ups. And maybe a meta-map loop that they can use to choose different levels or adventures. That's all the pieces that are typically within the what portion. Most people focus entirely on the what, thinking this is where the great idea is and this is what's going to get people excited. But if you're asking for money, there's going to be a lot of other key questions that investors are going to want to know. So the first one I actually want to draw attention to that is probably the top priority is the why. Okay, and the why is a little different than the what, and that what we're focusing on here is what is the core problem you are solving for your target audience? Why is this game pitch that you're coming up with a compelling opportunity for an investor to sink their money, resources, and time into you? So questions you want to answer in the why are things like your target audience. Who is it that you're selling your game concept to? Who is going to be the target player that's going to download this game, play it, and eventually become a spender of your game or game services? Things you want to answer here are, where's your market research? What have you done to validate the size of your audience and who that audience is? What are some of the characteristics of the demographic? What are these type of players looking for? What is the core need that you're filling for that target audience? If there's other games in the market space that are currently targeting that demographic, where is the opportunity where you can stand out and create a compelling experience that nobody else in the market space is? Finally, how big is the potential? So when you consider the size of that audience demographic, the potential of what you could offer, what is the potential return an investor might seek to gain back when they invest into you? Okay, so these are all important parts of the why element. All right, the next thing that investors are going to be interested in, especially for a new games team that's coming into this project, is the who. All right. So the who speaks to the team that is going to be responsible for delivering and executing on the promises of the why and the what. The who is especially important because one of the biggest risks that makes video games an uncertainty is the execution. Many people aspire to create and design video games and have wonderful and amazing ideas that can enrich and deliver unique experiences within the industry. But for somebody who is investing money, the core concern is, can they make this come to fruition? Can they execute? Can they deliver? And what investors are going to look at are the resumes, portfolios, and experience of your team. In the who section, you need to be able to articulate your team structure, who's involved, their background, their past experiences. If you're going to be developing the product, who are the key engineers? What level of technical expertise do they have? Who's representing your art, your narrative, your story? And what is the company's structure? How do you work together? What are the established agreements? Are these employees? Are they contractors? These are the parts you want to articulate in the who section. Okay, so now that we've covered the who, the next big section is the how. The how section is going to speak to your execution plan. Typical things that investors are going to want to see in the how section of your deck include things like your budget. They want to see that you've looked at and projected a realistic forecast of where your expenses are going to be, what things you're going to need to have. These could be software licenses, office space, supplies, computer hardware, resources to develop the game. If you're contracting for things like art, it could be the cost for art. You're going to definitely want to see things like your marketing spend, because a big part of a successful game execution is not just the construction of the game, but also how you're going to get it into the mindset of your target audience. How are they going to become aware of it and be able to latch on to the concept that you're creating. Other pieces of the how should include things like your technical architecture plan. So, for example, what I would expect to see as an investor in the game is what is the technology you're using to build your game with? What versions of the software? If you're going to be doing something that's multiplayer, requires live services, what are you using for your back end? How experienced are you with that back end? What kind of plans do you have? How many users do you need to support? And where is the research and the knowledge to show that you can, in fact, support those users? Likewise for the client tech. What is it that you're using to build the client tech with? How experienced do you have? Is there a working prototype that can demonstrate and prove out that you can execute on the how portion? So these are all elements that come into play for giving reassurance to your investors that you can in fact execute on the promise that you have presented in your why and what section. Lastly, the when portion of your pitch should speak to your schedule. If you were to invest money in somebody, I know as an investor, one thing I would definitely want to know is when can I expect my return? These are a lot of great things you promise, but if they go on for the next 10 years, that's a long period of time to be without my money. So I want to know, when does the project get started? When is the funding complete and ready? Do you have all the resources you need? What are the milestones? When can I expect to see things like first playable? Where I can go through and get a sense of what the game experience is. Visual target. What is the final product going to look like? And when can we see that? If you're going to be doing things like a soft launch to validate and tune the experience for a worldwide launch, when will the soft launch be ready? How long will it last? And of course, when is your worldwide launch? And speak to the different parts of different releases and platforms. So if you're going to be doing this on a mobile platform, you're launching on Steam, speak to the platforms, when each release and key milestone will be hit, and then give confident windows for where those dates will fall into place within the overarching schedule. So these are the basics: why, what, who, how, and when, that go into the formation of a successful pitch deck for anyone that would be investing in a video game project. If you're interested in having me dive more into any of these or all of these sections, please respond in the comments, and I'd be happy to address your questions next week. Thanks again for watching. This is Przybylski.